Welcome back to Whatcha Reading Wednesdays. Thanks for tuning in and spending time with us. Since the weather has been getting better lately, we're talking about reading in the summer. Audrey, do you read outdoors? Why or why not?
I do, especially in the summer when I go to the lake a lot. I like to read outside.
I do like to read outside. I don't want to read outside if there's mosquitoes around, but if it's nice out with a little breeze, it's very relaxing. Yeah.
I kind of like 50-50 on this one, only because I like to read outside, like under a covered porch screened in. So that's like outside and inside at the same time.
The chair has to be comfortable. You know, if you're going to perch yourself outside for an hour or two, I don't want my butt to hurt. It's my biggest concern, I guess. I mean, and the light has to be good. You know, no squinting, no headaches.
Yeah, I like reading outside. I'm about as outdoorsy as going on my deck or my porch. So,
like many people have already mentioned, as long as the chair is comfy and there's a body of water nearby.
I do, because I like summer and I like being outside in the summer.
Please describe your perfect scenario for reading outdoors.
I don't know exactly what they're called, but those fun zero gravity chairs that recline up and down. My stepmom has one of those, and it's my favorite thing to read in outside. I don't know why reading at the lake just hits different, if you will.
As the kids say.
As the kids say.
It's like the evening-ish, right? There's a citronella candle nearby and low mosquitoes because there's been a slight breeze all day, right? The temperature is below 73 degrees. Okay, the sun's going down, but it's not, you know, it's still giving light. Okay, and there's a campfire in front of you, right? And like 2 or 3 of your closest friends are next to you, right? But you're all reading.
Probably my favorite place, period, to read is the lake. And it is very enjoyable when you have friends with you. And we usually just spend like all day out on the deck, which is right next to the lake. We're like literally on the water.
early morning with a cup of coffee on the deck, that's also pretty wonderful.
Yes.
I too like to read at the lake. There's something about the sound of the waves as they're crashing against the sand, the birds singing.
In my hammock, where it's sunny and warm, but not too hot. I do like it warm though. Maybe a light breeze, and definitely no mosquitoes.
So I do like to read, like I said, in enclosed spaces. So the water, though, does sound very nice. You know, if I was like in a hotel room on a balcony, that would be a better situation where there was like waves there, but I wasn't like actually outside on the beach anywhere.
Aaron, do you have a favorite memory of reading outside as a child?
Listen, I really like air conditioning, and I will sweat if it's hot outside. Like it's, yeah. But I do remember, I think, like back when I was in like middle school, high school maybe, when my folks first bought the lake cabin that they have now. I used to wake up with my dad, and he'd go fishing, and I'd drink coffee in the boat and read Tom Clancy.
When I was a kid, our summer vacations were basically just going to another part of the state to camp, which is fine. I mean, I liked camping as a kid. Can't do it much now if it's in a tent because, you know, old bones and all that fun stuff. But yeah, as a kid, we'd go camping, and since that was our fancy vacation.
I do remember in like elementary school, when it was starting to get nice outside, sometimes we would go outside and have our story time, read aloud, teacher reading aloud books to you. Sometimes we'd go outside and do it there.
I remember silent reading outside in the spring, more elementary school activity. That was really fun.
I was probably in maybe 6th grade or something, and I grew up on a farm, and we had cattle, and one part of the fence, there was a low spot, and the fence was broken. And so my dad instructed me and my younger sister to go out there and sit in the pickup and make sure the cows did not get out of that thing while he was harvesting. And so my sister and I took our books with, because it was going to be really boring watching those cows. And so we read, and pretty soon here comes my dad, and here comes my uncle, and here comes my mom, and oh, those cows were out, and we got in so much trouble.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we'd go to the lake for a week in Paynesville somewhere with my aunt and uncle and my cousins, and we'd take the boat out on the lake to go fishing. And while everyone else was fishing or swimming off the boat, I would like to read.
I think we did a lot of traveling in the summertime, but it was mostly by plane because we lived overseas. And so just traveling back and forth to the United States. So if I was reading during the summertime, it was usually on a plane somewhere.
Justine, have you ever taken part in a summer reading program?
I sure have. Actually, the Grand Forks Public Library one from kindergarten to 6th grade. And then I aged out of it and I was super sad. So I'm glad that there's an opportunity for teens and adults now.
Yeah, I know we did. And I have very specific memories of, it would have been the early 90s. I think there was a Gumby theme, and there was mini golf in the front of the Grand Forks Public Library lawn. I know Sue Cox was my librarian growing up, so I think it's really fun to be able to work with her. And she might even actually remember that summer reading program.
I'm sad to say I never participated in a summer reading program, at least not one hosted by a library, not where I grew up. Didn't really know they were a thing, to be honest with you, until I started working at the library. So I feel like I missed out a little bit, but it's really fun to actually like work at the library and like have your hand in everything, especially now that we're offering adult stuff. Like that's really cool.
I know I went to the library a lot, but I don't recall it being for a program. I remember story times, but not summer reading programs. So it wasn't until I too got more into the profession that I started, looking up summer reading stuff and that kind of thing, kind of getting more involved.
I for sure did all of the elementary school years at the Grand Forks Public Library. And then after that, I kept my own lists of what I would read in the summer. At least through high school, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, my parents gave us some money depending on how much we had read. I think that's right. It was always the highlight of my summer as a kid, was participating in the program. And then having those, we always had to be outside for the final drawings because there were just so many people.
I grew up in a small town too, so I don't think that there was anything like that available. Before I worked at the library as a working mom, I didn't, bring my kids to it because I don't know if the hours were more daytime or if you had evening or what that was. But one perk this year with a virtual program is it's really self-paced, right? You could do it at any time. It's just a different summer altogether where people are working from home, and so it's kind of nice that, more people could get involved this summer and enjoy it with their kids.
Our town was very small. We didn't have a library. So what I remember about in the summer was Fargo had a bookmobile that went through the county, and they would stop like about once a month maybe, and you could go on the bookmobile and you could get books to have for the summer. That was really cool. And then we also had, they were called weekly readers, and they had book order forms in there. So you could order books during the summer, and they were, like dirt cheap, and that was just a big deal with us. We thought that was really, really cool.
Audrey, what are your thoughts about a summer reading program for adults?
I think it's a great idea. Considering we only started this program last year, I think it's a great opportunity for adults to participate with their kids as well as just doing it by themselves. We have a lot of cool incentives and prizes that you can win this year.
Especially for the adults that don't have kids, like me. The prizes this year.
One of the things I like so much about being able to have an adult program too, besides letting the adults in on the fun, is that the adults will be reading, and so they are mirroring this good behavior for their kids. So it's not just like, okay, go read your 20 minutes that you have to read. They are showing them what you should do, because reading is so important.
I completely agree, because sometimes like I'll feel guilty for reading around my kids, and then I'm like, no, that's what I should be doing, is teaching them that that's a great hobby.
Yep, definitely.
I think it also kind of functions as a love letter to our patrons who are reading anyway. So it's, in a tiny little way, it's kind of our saying thank you and, you know, good choice in a hobby.
It's nice that we're so involved too. Like, we're involved in the entire planning process, and then we're in the programming as well. So it's like we get to interact with them in maybe a way that we don't usually get to, just at the front desk. We get to know our patrons a little more. And I think that's probably, for me, the best part.
And that bean stack is going to make it really slick to this year. That's really a neat program. So that will be exciting to get that rolled out.
Angie, what's the name of a book you'd suggest for people to read in the summer?
I have one that I'm looking forward to. I haven't read it yet. Has anybody heard of Musical Chairs by Amy Popel?
Mm-hmm.
It was recommended by Modern Mrs. Darcy, which I think, Mary, you recommended her podcast once. It's a contemporary romance, which, Tori, I know you've talked a lot about those, and I haven't read one for a while. It sounds really good. It just sounds like a funny, lighthearted type of read, and that's what I like in the summertime. It's just, you know,
Oh, yeah.
easy page turner. So Anne Bogle also has another book out, Don't Overthink It. You guys know I'm a nonfiction fan, so I had to give you a nonfiction with my fiction choice.
So I, like you, read a lot of lighter stuff in the summer because it's just, you know, you're outside, it's breezy, you want something light and breezy to read. So one of my favorite authors to read in the summer is Jen Bennett, and she's a young adult author. My favorite book of hers being Alex Approximately. I read it 2 summers ago at the lake. So when I think about the book, I think about the lake. And so I always want to read it at the lake. And then I picked up this book called Beach Read at PLA earlier this year. And I don't know what it's about, but I'm excited to start reading it this weekend, actually.
So definitely Alex Approximately. I did the same thing. I read the entire book at the lake a couple summers ago. It's very summery, very fun. Another one I recommend for summer is The Unhoneymooners. Sorry, it's so bright. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I read that one as soon as it came out, which was in like the middle of May. But it's got summer vibes. They're on a beach for half the book, so can't really go wrong with that.
I read a book called Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. Wow, however you pronounce her name. Napolitano.
Yep,
Sorry. Anyway, so that one's really good. It's probably not as light as maybe some people would like. It's about a boy, and he is the only survivor of a plane crash. But it's a very thought-provoking, very touching book in parts. Really good book. I also read another book called Evie Drake Starts Over, and I can't remember the author, sorry. But that one was definitely kind of a beachy read. She's starting over with her life, and she meets somebody who was a former professional baseball player, and he's kind of washed up, but she doesn't think he is, so she tries to work on him to get him to be back in his sports field again. But very, you know, very lighthearted. It was a nice read.
When I think of summer reading, like Tori, my family would take a lot of vacations, like camping vacations. We hit up different national park regions. So one of my favorite topics to read during the summer is anything on national parks. And the latest one that I really enjoyed is Devil's Bargains, Tourism in the 20th Century American West. And it goes from like the creation of Yellowstone to, you know, Disneyland, to all these different like hot spots that still exist and some don't still exist, and just kind of discuss how it changed the landscape, how it, you know, how humans might have clashed with the wildlife and what changes they made, and it's a lot of fun. And then there's actually a really good one that was released, like, I don't know, back in the 2010s. It's a biography of Teddy Roosevelt and his conservation efforts called The Wilderness Warrior, which is really good if you enjoy biographies.
I tend to read some of everything anyway, but reading some more Jenna Ivanovich, I really like sometimes rereading her stuff because it's super duper funny, and it's super duper light, and I kind of know there's going to be a happy ending, so there's that. I haven't read 26 yet, Twisted 26, so I'll probably read that coming up here pretty soon. And then there was a book called The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, and that was also a good book. And it was like had a lot of baseball themes. And I think about summer, I think about going to baseballs, I think about sports. So I think that would be another good read is The Proposal. So yeah, there you go.
Suggestion that I have is Lumberjanes, because it's a graphic novel, and it's kind of a take on the Scouts. They're called Lumberjanes, and they're at a summer camp. It's a camp for hardcore lady types, and it's like an all ages book that like anyone could read. And it's about like friendship and mystery, and there's like supernatural kind of elements. It definitely has like Babysitters Club vibes or like stuff from like the 80s and 90s that I appreciate, and I think even like younger readers can enjoy as well.
That wraps up this episode of What You Reading Wednesdays. Remember to visit our website and sign up for the Grand Forks Public Summer Reading Program. Thanks for joining us. As always, let us know if you have specific requests or topic ideas. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Stay well, stay home, stay curious. Take care. Bye-bye.